In our short video, we'll demonstrate and feature the SICK incorporated inductive proximity sensors and how they're being used in a very typical metal stamping application with a progressive strip forming operation. What we have is a die model that is featuring a number of the particular sensors being used in very typical applications that you would find in a progressive strip forming operation where inductive proc switches are used. Our very first sensor application, we've got a 18 millimeter unshielded proc switch that is actually being used to detect the end of the coil of the coil stock. In this particular case, the normally open could be used as a presence of material verified, and the normally closed would be used to indicate the end of stock. And that is actually being featured in our very first station that we've got here. The second application that we've got, the number 3 sensor, here we have actually a 5 millimeter barrel that is actually mounted below the strip. It is actually coming up from below the die set. We've got a plastic holder that is used for the mounting. It's a threaded mounting on this holder. And as the strip is actually moved past this sensor's sensing field, the output indicator, there's a little LED, yellow LED on the barrel, that will turn on, indicating presence of the stock material. Typically used for strip feed and mounted below the strip in a very typical application. The number 4 sensor that we've got, again, is very similar in its functionality. This is a rectangular 5 millimeter diameter, no, 5 millimeter rectangular size sensor with the side sensing. And as I move the sensor, the strip in front of the sensor's field, you can see the output status indicator light on the back side of this illuminate through the plastic holder. That's the number 4 sensor that we've got in our application. The number 5 sensor that's being featured in our die model, this is a small 10 millimeter rectangular sensor with a 3 millimeter sensing range. This would typically be used and has been used in detecting of pulled slug. The spring-loaded stripper is actually traveling up and down, and its purpose is to remove the stock from the tooling. And if the stripper does not come all the way down, it would typically be prohibited in that by presence of a pulled slug. So this is a very typical application of where we would mount the corners. We would mount it and measure and detect the corners of the stripper plate. That's our number 5 sensor in this particular application. The number 6 sensor that's being featured in our application here, this is where we've got a 12 millimeter barrel sensor that is mounted overhead and actually mounted looking down at the features on the strip. We've got it located, this is a shielded 12 millimeter proc switch, and being used to detect either the leading edge of the strip, or since there's a perforation on this portion of the strip, we could actually use this to indicate center of the strip or that the hole is present. That is our number 6 sensor that we have. The number 7 sensor that is actually being used in this model is a 8 millimeter proc switch that's on the back side of this holder that is actually coming through and used to detect the edge of the strip, and can be used to verify that either the leading edge for strip feed, or we have a perforation or notch on the strip material, and that sensor could be used to verify that that material has been notched out accordingly. So that is our number 7 sensor that we've got in our particular die model. The 8th sensor that is part of this particular die model demonstration, this is a 30 millimeter unshielded proc switch with a 20 millimeter sensing range. In this case here, we're basically showing how it is used to detect, for instance, the return of a forming cam. Typically, this is a tooling feature that is used to either form part of the strip or perforate from the side, and you want to make sure that this cam is returned so that the strip is free for further indexing. So this is again how our number 8 sensor is being featured in this particular model. The number 9 sensor and final sensor in this particular application, where we've got a 12 millimeter unshielded barrel that is actually picking up a edge portion of this particular strip that we have, and this could be used to detect the edge at its particular feed point. It also could be set up that we're determining, again, a notch or a missing area on the strip. So this is a brief run-through of the numbers of different types of sensors and the applications that they would be used and can be used in the metal forming application on a prog die. The other thing just to point out, you'll see some of these sensors have a potted cable, some have quick disconnect, and in the quick disconnects they could be either where they're straight or in 90-degree right angle. And the other thing that we're featuring in this particular application is where we've got the 12 millimeter quick disconnect, and then there's also the smaller 8 millimeter quick disconnect cables that are on some of our other sensors on this. So you have options and choices as to how you want to terminate the wiring and the cabling on any sensor that you would choose. So that's a run-through of how the SiC incorporated inductive proc switches are currently being used in a number of in-die applications.